So we're going to be looking at our Tenlog Solutions TL D3 Pro. So this is what our main menu is. You're going to be using this button to move the X, Y, and Z axis. So for right now, it's moving the Z axis up because I was tapping the Z button earlier. That way we can get a little bit better view of everything on the printer. Now we're going to go ahead and hit back. Oh, actually, let's look at one more thing. So you have the X and the Y axis here and the Z axis here. You also have the ability to switch which nozzle you're controlling. It doesn't work on every screen. So like on this screen, you'll see it again. We can switch between 1 and 2. This is where our SD card is. So the SD card loads up right into the side of the machine. You can see mine sticking out right there. So you can just hit print and it'll bring up the files on the SD card. You can see right now I have some skeleton models printed up, or set up to print. Onto our tool setting, we can level it, we can cool it, we can raise the temperature, and we can reload filament. So when you want to reload filament, you're going to want to warm it up. So you can see that this thing will start warming up. Like let's say I want to make it 200 degrees for a PLA. You can see that temperature on the right side there, it says 100, it'll start going up as it gets to 200. Once it reaches temperature, we can hit feed in to put in new filament or feed out to take out filament. And then we have the same options here on the right side for nozzle 2. So we can also level from this screen. We can tell it to go to one of these arrows and it'll move whichever nozzle we have selected to that particular corner. You're always going to want to now level nozzle 1 first. So you're going to level nozzle 1 first, you're going to level one corner, and then its opposite corner, so diagonally. So if I do corner 1, my next one is going to be corner 4. And then I would do corner 2 and corner 3, or at least that's how I label them. I don't know if that's necessarily how they're supposed to be labeled. Let's see, what else do we need to do on here? So I mean, that's pretty much everything you need to do. On dual material, duplication or mirror. So duplication, it's producing a second of whatever model you have. In mirror, it's reflecting it. I always do mirror, that way I have a little variance in my miniatures. They're not all exactly the same. So that's something you want to select beforehand. So right now it's set to mirror. If I tell it to print, it'll print what I have saved on the left side, on the right side as well. So like if you look at my files in Cura, all of my files will be on the left side of the printer so that the right side can duplicate it. And that's really pretty much all there is to using the control panel. When you level it, you're going to be adjusting the little knobs right here under the glass to bring them into alignment. The other thing you can adjust is actually right here inside of it. There's a, it's hard to tell that there's a nut you can adjust. You can see it better on this side. So you can see that we have a little entryway for our wrench right there, and an entryway for a Allen wrench. So the Allen wrench is going to loosen, and then we're going to turn that nut inside there up or down to raise or lower the print head so that it matches the other side, and you can get clean prints. Up here we have our filaments loaded. So you can see I have 2 different colors loaded, and you'll see I did a white and black dragon. We'll show in some of the videos. So you're going to load your filaments through this filament detector. You can see that it has the downward arrow, and it's been basically set up just like that. These are not on the directions, so helpful to see it in the video. I had to ask exactly how they hook up, just because I wasn't sure what they were supposed to be for. This was one of my first 3D printers. I got it about 3 days after my very first one. So as far as familiarity with it goes, you don't need to know too much. The instructions are good enough to put it together, minus this one section. And as you saw, the use is just super simple. Alright, so as you can see, our Tenlog printer is mirror printing right now, which means only one of these sides is loaded in the software. Then you tell this thing to mirror, and it prints it on the right side as well. So as you can see, we're doing 2 different colors, and if you can see the little kind of checkerboard pattern inside, that's the actual base of the model. The rest of these things that are thinner are supports for the model itself. Right now this is printing a tentacle abomination. There will definitely be photos of it in my review. But I'll show you some things that's printed already. real quick. Alright, so this was a skeleton death board that it printed last night. As you can see, there's some pretty good detail. My pictures will capture the detail a little bit better than this phone does. One thing you want to take note of is that they will come out as an opposite orientation of each other because it is a mirrored image. You can see that there's a little bit of a stringiness effect on the pink one more than the white one. The pink print head was still off a little bit when I printed these. I've since adjusted it so the Tentacle Abomination shouldn't have that problem. So that'll be a great one. Another one that it printed was this guy. This is a demon. You can see his horns. He's got like little blade hands. The reason it doesn't have a mirrored image though is something happened to the elbow on the white one, and it did not print correctly and it kind of broke apart. It did print the whole thing, but he's waiting to be repaired currently. I think that's the only other thing I have printed from Tenlog right now. This is our menu here. You see that you've got temperatures for both nozzles and the bed, and then the fan speed, and this tells you what mode it's in. So this is the mirror mode. And then of course you have your current print time, settings, pause, stop. These are printed in fine detail. So it's a very slow printing process, and this is a decently sized model. I want to say it's about 7 inches tall when it's finished. So it's really just working on the base and getting the support and everything in it correct currently. But we'll be happy to see it once it comes up. Leveling these things is a little different than leveling on like an ET4, which is my only other 3D printer. You actually like adjust a little knob in here and then adjust a bolt to up, lower, and raise this. And then to level it, of course, you're doing mostly the leveling from the little knobs into the base. There's some great videos on how to level it. I highly recommend you watching those videos so that you can learn how to level it, because that was a big learning curve for me, because my Auto has an auto level feature. On these glass beds, you're going to need something to help them stick. A cheap hairspray works. I got one just like $3 from a grocery store, and it works great. So this thing was doused in hairspray right before I started printing, and as you can see, they're sticking just fine. Alright, so this is our Ultimaker Cura software. This comes on the little drive that comes with the printer. So you can see that I have the Pro selected right here. So you should see your printer name right here in the top left. We're going to open up a file real quick. Let's split it to something different from the Angels. Yeah, why not? We'll do a King in Yellow. Alright, so it's automatically going to drop things in the center. If you're going to dual print where you're mirroring it and you want a second one, you're going to want to move it off to the side. You can see that I have this one set to be in red. My ink is set to be in red so that I can clearly tell which extruder is doing what, even though I'm not actually printing in red. I find that to be a real helpful way to do the dual printer. So if you're going to mirror it, you don't actually set 2 models up inside the software, it's just one model, and then you tell the machine to put one on the other side, which I'll cover in another part of the video. Over here, you're going to be adjusting which extruder is doing what. So if you were, say, doing a base and it had 2 extruder paths, you could do one part red, one part blue, or whatever colors you happen to have selected and loaded to your machine. I just want to show you a couple of the things that you might want to know if you haven't used Cura before. Up here, we have the settings for how detailed it is, from extra fine to coarse, or extra coarse. Now, when you do the more detailed ones, it extends your printing time and also your slicing time. So it's going to take a little bit longer to prepare models at fine and a lot longer to print them. At extra fine, it's an extremely long printing process compared to fine. I normally find that it almost doubles it in printing time. I've done a lot of larger models though, so it may not be the case for everything. So this is an older version of Cura. So when you enable supports, you're not going to be enabling supports here unless you want to use a traditional support. If you want to use a traditional support, that's fine. But if you want to use a tree support, you're actually going to be enabling that down here inside the experimental part. So you can see tree supports selected right there. I prefer tree supports, they're much easier to get off, they touch the model in less places. So especially if you're doing miniatures, it's really helpful for getting that detail. Now on the other setting that I like to adjust is the build plate adhesion. You can see my brim width is up to 10. It's normally only 8. That just helps it stick to the plate a little bit better. And when it's printing onto glass, it will have some adhesion issues. They make glue. I use a cheap hairspray. I haven't tried the official glues yet. The hairspray works fine, especially on this printer. The hairspray seems to work really good. So like I said, you're moving one model off to the left and it automatically prints on the right as long as you're telling the machine that you want to mirror what you're printing on the left. And those are really the only settings off the default that I adjust on this machine. This machine works really good for me. I've had no issues. So really great printer. This red dragon. One of the things you're going to see in my video hopefully later on is the dragon printing with dual color filament, where the support is one color and the dragon is another color. Just to kind of show off how that would work, there's a lot of filaments that are designed to break easy or dissolve in water to get them off of your prints. So basically filaments designed to be used to support that'll come off easier. So you need a machine like this to really make that work. It needs dual extruders. One is printing the support, one is printing the actual model on the real filament. So we're going to do a black and white model where the support is black and the model itself is white. And right now we're slicing it with just the one side. I just want to get an idea of the time difference and let you guys know. So the time for extruder number 2 being involved in the support is 1 day and 12 hours. And that's if one is printing the supports and one is printing the actual model. And we'll be right back as it's done slicing. 11 hours faster, I believe, than what we were seeing on the dual printed. So that's a big difference. So it does take longer if you're going to use the second extruder for the supports, but still something that could be really helpful on detailed models, especially if there's a lot of tiny fingers and things that might break easy. Using that dissolvable filament could be a really good bonus.
Okay, so this is our video. This is our dragon. It's going to be a white dragon printed with black supports. So we're utilizing both extruders for the one dragon. I printed the brim in white, which was a little surprising. I assumed the brim was considered part of the support, but it's not. So the brim is in white, the dragon is in white, and the supports are in black. I'll take videos off and on through its development so you can see it come up, and then we'll also show what the finished product looks like at the end. Alright, so we're significantly farther along. You can see that the wings on one side of the dragon is popular. There's also a tiny bit of tail back there. But you can see it's building on top of that black support structure. It's pretty dense. This is probably going to be a not fun experience to get off of the dragon, but it gives you a really cool idea of the capabilities of this printer. If this was a weak filament designed to break, or a water-soluble filament, you could do some really crazy things with it. Alright, so we're getting pretty far along now. You can see the wing is mostly done on one side. You can see the wing going into the other side. So you can really see how this plays out with the black supports. I probably won't do any more until we get to the very end. And then you'll be able to see what the finished product looks like.